Our next speaker is a certified mompreneur, digital influencer, and a published author. A mother of six, her passions are financial education and humor, an unlikely combination that collided in her first book, Secrets I Learned by Sleeping with My Financial Advisor. For the speaker, COVID-19 has directly impacted her wedding business. However, she will share to us how publishing her book has provided her another income stream. So, if writing a book is your dream, then you should listen intently as the speaker will share to you actionable steps on how to publish a book in time with all the time that you have right now. VirtualPreneurs, our next speaker, Alice Von Simon.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Ruben. Hi, everyone. I hope you're all staying well in this extremely trying time. I am here as an author, but I've actually been a bit of a chameleon throughout my career. So I grew up in England. I was a journalist there. I was a writer. And then when I moved to America, I couldn't find, we were in a fairly remote location and I couldn't find anything that worked for me within that field. So I actually made a full switch and I opened a wedding business, which has been fantastic over the years. And then recently I decided to go back to the writing, which thankfully was just in time for this latest disaster, because as I'm sure you can all guess, my wedding business isn't doing fantastic right now, but the writing is going to tie me over. So I would say that my first piece of advice is if you can try to be as flexible as possible in your career, then that will really stand you in good stead, particularly now. But in fact, I think always as technology is changing, as the job market's changing, we're just not going to have those jobs anymore that last through our whole life. So learning how to do a few different things and just learning, I suppose, a wide range of things within your career. When I was a journalist, I moved around a lot through different departments of the newspaper. So I saw how things were done in different areas, and all of that has stood me in very good stead. Now for becoming, a digital entrepreneur and starting blogging and things like that, where you really do have to take control of everything. I suppose what makes me stand out in terms of being a finance writer is that I'm a woman. I'm a little bit younger, and I don't actually have an incredibly strong background in finance. I did do economics at school, but I didn't do a full economics degree. I haven't worked in the financial sector at all. And I suppose what I want to get across there is that in order to be successful as an author or successful selling digital courses or blogging or things like that, you don't have to be the top expert in your area. You just need to know more than the people who are your target audience. So if you could think back to a time in your career when you knew a little bit less and you were learning, that's probably a great place to look for the people that might be your target audience. So basically you, but a little further down the line. I have a book that I'm selling online. That's the newer part of my career. I'm also a writer, and I write for publications that are online as well as traditional print. I suppose, again, what we were just discussing is what makes me stand out a bit, as well as maybe coming from a slightly different background. I think I approach things in my own way. I've got to an age where I just think, this is me. If I'm going to write a finance book, I'm still going to write that finance book as if I were talking to, my friends and the people that I like to hang out with. I'm not going to try to be someone who I'm not, this kind of expert talking down to people from on high. Failure is definitely a huge part of success. That's something whenever I'm training new staff to do anything, I always tell them, now during the training, please make as many mistakes as possible. I think that you always learn so much more from making a mistake than you learn from doing things right. It gives you that little edge of knowing where things can go, knowing how to get yourself out of trouble, pivoting a little bit. And when you look at all of the people who are wildly successful, usually if you look back over their career, you can see a huge line of failures, but they never gave up. They kept on trying, and then suddenly they hit the big time. But I don't think they would have I don't think that's chance. I don't think they would have hit that big success in their life had they not had the failures, because I think that's where we learn so many skills. We learn how to get it right the next time. We learn how to pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off, get that tenacity and all that kind of thing. I felt like a failure 1,000 times in my life. In 1,000 ways, it's hard to even pick one thing. But I just try to not take it personally each time it happens. I think that's where you can go down the rabbit hole. If you start thinking that you failed because you're not good enough. When I fail, I try instead to look at, okay, what went wrong? What could I do differently? What could I have done better? Or even just, maybe this actually wasn't such a good idea as I thought, and I need to go back to the drawing board and try something different. I think failure is nothing to be afraid of as long as you learn from it and as long as you try to do something different the next time. I think that the things that have helped me to succeed are, firstly, as I said before, just being myself. We're all very unique, and you're not going to have any competition so long as you stay who you are. Second, I would say choosing a subject that you're passionate about, that you're genuinely interested in, that you want to continue learning about, that stays fresh for you. And then thirdly, I would say, particularly online, staying engaged with people, even when you're not selling something, even when your cart's closed, showing up, being there, chatting with people, sharing good information as you find it. I think having that network of people and the constant contact with them is helpful in so many ways. First of all, they know you're not just trying to get something out of them, but also you can learn from those people. You get a better feel for who your audience is and what they want, and what you can create for them. I think I would say to someone who's young and starting out, I would give them the advice that I would give myself if I could go back in time, which is just to be patient. I think everything takes and still does take me so much longer to achieve than I want it to. I put out a piece of work and I really, I'm almost refreshing my inbox every 30 seconds because I want a result. I want a submission to get accepted. I want to receive a check for some work I've done. I want to see more followers, more people signing up, that kind of thing. I think we all need to take a step back and remember that, there's a lot of work on the front end of starting any kind of digital business, and you do need to allow yourself at least a year before you decide whether or not it's working, whether it's time to give up and move on or not. Because if you're looking to get overnight success, this probably isn't really the right field. But the good thing about it is once you have done all that, it's kind of like the cart's in motion and it just keeps building and building, and you have less work unless you're scaling upward. You have less work in the future, so you can do a lot of work now, and it's kind of putting it in the bank for later on. I have one friend who's an extremely successul yoga kind of influencer, and she does courses and things, and she put in all this work, and then about a year's worth of work, and then she had a baby, and she was literally able to just take several months almost completely off because that work just kept bringing an income in. So it was completely worth doing that and considering that you're building up. It's almost like a savings account for your future. So I have two businesses. The first one is a wedding business, and the second one is the personal finance. And COVID-19 has crushed my wedding business. Complete disaster right at the beginning of our busy season, right when I should have had lots of money rolling in. Instead, I just have an inbox full of cancellations and people wanting to know if they can get deposits back, and it's a complete disaster. And then in terms of the personal finance advice, That's actually been, COVID-19 has been a good thing in a way. I think way more people are online and spending more time online and engaging online than they have before. People are also willing to help other people out. People are interested themselves in moving more to online. They're working from home. Everyone's learning all this new technology and becoming more familiar with what's out there. So I think if you have, any kind of online business, you may have to swivel things round a little bit, but there is a way to turn this into a positive. Even my wedding business, all of these brides we're offering them the chance to reschedule things and move things with no penalties, and we're trying to be very understanding with them, and they're really responding well to that and appreciating that. And I think we'll have people, who they'll leave us fantastic reviews. They won't hesitate to recommend us, that kind of thing. So even in that side of the business, I think, there could be a positive. And almost any business that you're in, you can move some portion of it online and monetize it. And then again, once you've figured out how to do that, you don't need to give that up once the pandemic is over. That's something that once you have set up could continue bringing in a bit of passive income for you. It is a rotten time to have a startup, so I do apologize if you're in that position. It does add a layer of complication, but I think it also adds, a layer of focus that you might not have otherwise had, a layer of determination, and, having these challenges thrown at you, making you maybe even more determined to succeed, and, more thinking outside the box more. How can you work around these problems? How can you still service the customers that you're desperate to start servicing? So I think it's not, necessarily bad. You just have to be able to look at it from, okay, if everything's figure outable, what are the good things and the strengths that I can pull out of this situation? Local businesses, the same thing, I suppose. One advantage is that, your local business, once and the whole world is doing everything online right now. It's not like you're trying to sell online services to people who'd prefer to go to a location. No one can go to a location. I have a wonderful Spanish tutor who teaches my kids Spanish, and she comes to the house and she's amazing. And obviously she can only service quite a, small area. It has to be drivable for her. Now I'm sharing her business on my social media, and she's able to do online tutoring for kids who are in like Canada or London, wherever all my friends are. There's been so much interest. So I think that's given her just this sudden huge reach. So I think local businesses can benefit from that. Even our kids' dance classes are now online, and they've got one of the dance teachers reading good night stories to the kids. And, I think it's just finding ways to engage with your existing customers through the internet, just to keep them there for you when this is all over, but also to, like I said, also to bring in another source of income that you might be able to keep up after it's all over.